Can you explain that one a little bit more? I mean, that takes us back to 1983, but in which sense did Costa Rican neutrality mean that you stand your ground?
Yes, I think it's very important because Costa Rica's um the the way Costa Rica used neutrality as a legal mechanism to be forced to stay away from conflicts. I think it was a brilliant idea. So in the still in the 80s, the Cold War was very hot in different part of the words the world, including Central America, particularly Nicaragua. So in the late 70s, a communist supported group, the Sandinistas, started a revolution and took control of the country. And being so close to the Panama Canal and to Cuba, the Americans were not happy of having a stronghold of the communist bloc in Central America. So they created the Contra, which was a group, a paramilitary group, aimed at overthrowing the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. So they started by supporting. So Nicaragua limits to the north with Guatemala and El Salvador, and to the south to Costa Rica. So in Guatemala and El Salvador, sorry, Honduras and El Salvador, the CIA was setting camps and training the Contras and giving all the support. So they were invading Nicaragua from the north. But they also wanted to invade from the south, take control of the San Juan River, which goes all the way to the Nicaragua Lake, basically crosses most of Nicaragua. And so they could pincer the Sandinistas from the north and the south. And we didn't really want to take part in that. So the Costa Rican president at the time, President Luis Alberto Monge, started a tour in the search for support if Costa Rica was to declare itself neutral, fearing sanctions or something from the Americans. The history recounts that for some reason, President Monge was very much of the likes of the Queen Elizabeth. Um, President Monge didn't even go to university. He was a peasant. I mean, he comes from a family of farmers, and he was back in the day. Costa Rica was a very rural society, and it was a very small country, very poor. So I don't know what was it, but it was because of the support of Queen Elizabeth that President Monge got the necessary will and strength to decide to declare Costa Rica neutral, and then come to Reagan and say, "Hey, President Reagan, I'm sorry, but now I cannot do it because I'm obligated under their international law not to let you set the contra camp here." So, and that's how it went. And
Just a second, just to understand the process, like Monge knew that there was a risk that the Americans will put even more pressure and will put bases, I mean CIA or whatever it will be, in Costa Rica. He was unhappy about it, thought, what can I do? Said, like, how about a unilateral declaration of neutrality, my 7-page document. He put that out, and once he had it out, he said, like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. I mean, the document is out now. So sorry, can't have your bases. That was how it went, right?
that is exactly that is exactly how it went.
Ah,
He
that
put
man is a brilliant person, brilliant guy.
he It's brilliant. I mean, he put the country in a position where the country couldn't legally do it.
Good.
And then he came to Riga and said, like, sorry, man, I can't do it. And and the Americans respected the decision. So, I mean, so is the when the Iraqi war happened, it was not the first time Costa Rica has stood its ground before the Americans, saying no. There is I mean, we are an independent country. Neutrality has been a part, a key component of our way of understanding government, the state, and international politics since the 19th century. I mean, neutrality has been a foreign policy of Costa Rica. There is records going back to 1863. President Jesus Jimenez, in a speech to the Congress, stating how this neutrality policy has been a core of Costa Rica's foreign policy, which
Probably in
means
relation to the U.S. Civil War.
it might have been it was 1863, but you can draw from his speech that neutrality was a policy even before that. I mean, we don't have all the records, but we have a record of him saying in 1863 that Costa Rica had been neutral already for a while.
So that means that in 1983, your president put out that 7-page document arguing that no, this is not a new policy. This is just now in a policy paper all the traditions that we had already going on. Is that the case?
Is that the case? In fact, he recalls these speeches in this 7-page long document, and he doesn't put it in these words, but what he's saying is that Costa Rica's declaration of neutrality was just an expression of self-determination. And the ICJ has been clear that one of the attributes of self-determination, which is shared with sovereignty, is the attribute of the capacity to establish its own foreign policy, which is shared by both sovereignty and self-determination. And the ICJ has said it in when referring to both legal institutes. It says one of the attributes of sovereignty is that the states are able to establish freely their own foreign policy as long as it doesn't violate general international law. And the same with self-determination. So Costa Rica's neutrality declaration is not just the exercise of attributes of sovereignty, it's also the exercise of self-determination, which is recalled that it is none other than the expression of something we had been forever, which is neutral.
And that worked in 1983 to prevent the US from setting up shop and bases in Costa Rica.